for this, we're going to cover, just some tips and techniques on what to do and what not to do with listing photos. Most of our people are pretty good, but just kind of as a reminder. So, just to highlight the importance of listing photos, that for your specific listing, it gets more exposure. You'll probably get more listing or more showings when you have good listing photos. Often can get offers sooner because you've got more people looking at it, and potentially if you get multiple offers, it might even sell for more just because it looks good. But it also, with lots of people looking at it, you may get other listings by having good photos. Just because people see you're doing a good job. If they see your listing and it's, got dark photos or out of focus, bad lighting, they're not going to think of contacting you if they're selling a house. So, it's probably one of the most important things when you have a listing is the photos. So, and obviously the best thing is to get a photographer. But if you want to do it yourself and save some money, especially for lower end listing, you still want to make sure you have good photos, just to, make you look good, make your listing and your sellers look good. So the biggest thing I see people do that they should do is they take photos in the portrait orientation, which that's like, holding your cell phone, which it's a natural thing to do. If you're using your cell phone to take pictures, you hold it like a phone. Those will end up, getting either squished or shrunk down, and don't look anywhere near as good as if you did it as a landscape, where if you hold it, even with a phone, hold it like it was a camera. So where it's horizontal. The one exception to that is if you are specifically taking photos for social media, other than YouTube, they're basically all portrait style. So for Facebook or TikTok videos, Instagram, any of those, you'll want to take separate pictures that are in portrait, and those will look best because a lot of people are looking at that on their cell phone. So it makes sense to do them the same way. Another common thing which you don't want to do is people forget to turn the lights on. So, and not just in the room you're in, but in all the rooms around too. Ideally, you'll get there, go through the house, turn all the lights on, do your pictures, then turn all the lights off. Because even lights in another room help make it look brighter. They also make the lighting more even, which helps with focusing and color balancing. So make sure all the lights are on. And then another thing, when you're doing it step by step like that, it kind of keeps you in a rhythm. You don't want to be rushed going through and taking quick pictures. So take your time. For each room, watch your viewfinders, see what looks best. Usually, for most rooms, you'll want to stand in one of the corners and like literally with your back up against the corner. That gives you the widest view of the room. That will, usually look the best, and make it look the biggest. So, people see the full area. And also pay attention to what's actually showing up. If there's any little bit of clutter, move it, either move it or move yourself so that you can't see it.
I feel awful. I'm going back to bed. I called out at 1 o'clock.
And then if you are using a professional photographer, it's best to follow them, make sure they're taking the shots that you want. And then again, obviously they aren't going to move things around. If there's something in the way, they're just going to take a picture of it. And make sure they get pictures of everything that you wanted. So a good idea is to have a list of any specifics you want them to get a picture of and give that to them, either email it to them beforehand or bring it with you, print it out. This is an example on one of Pat's listings. The photographer forgot to take pictures of inside the garage and of the walk-in closet. This is one, it was far off, so she, I think she got there later, something didn't fully, follow him around, and ended up, he missed a few things. So always good to keep an eye on them, make sure they're doing, what you want, rather than just making their own choices. So like I was saying, for listing photos, always do landscape view. Do go through, turn on all the lights, remember to turn them off. If you're taking pictures yourself, pretty much all cameras and cell phones nowadays have what's called HDR, which stands for high dynamic range. But it actually takes multiple pictures and at different contrast settings or exposure settings and combines them. And that gives you much better balance of lighting. So you don't get really bright spots or really dark spots. The good example is, you take a picture of a living room, it's a sunny day outside, and the windows are just like blazing lights. And so often even the inside of the room will then be dark. And then another benefit of taking your time is, you're less likely to get blurry photos. Just you're moving slowly and you're not going to be, slightly shaking a little bit. It's surprising how little motion can actually make the picture a fair amount blurry. And ideally, if you have one or can get one, is use a tripod. If you have a phone that has a remote, that even makes it even better because you're not even touching the camera when you take a picture. And that, will give you much sharper photos, better focused. And I've got a few examples, couple which I think Debbie's already seen, but because I use my hummingbird pictures as an example. So here's some examples of, what happens when you don't follow all the rules. So here we have, this is from the MLS, showing the landscape view on top, how you should do it. And then down here, you've got one ticket in portrait, and you can barely even see the house or what it is, just because it gets shrunk down. The alternative thing that can happen, and this is what often happens on public websites, is the pictures will get squished. This one in particular, isn't too bad because the original picture was so little it isn't obvious it's squished. But then when you get to interior pictures, in this living room, it actually has a vaulted ceiling, but it looks, like it's a little cave because this picture was also taken portrait like that and then squished down into landscape view. The other rare exception you used to see, but not too much nowadays, is it might actually get cropped. And so all you'd see is, like on this interior picture, you'd see the wall. You wouldn't see a floor or a ceiling because the rest was going off screen. And for example, how big a difference a tripod can make. I happen to have two pictures taken from the same distance with the same camera. Um, and this one, it looks pretty good. And if you knew how cheap my camera was, you'd think it was really good. But this is with a tripod. And not only are the birds, their feathers and everything more detailed, even stuff that's closer to me and some stuff further away is in focus. Because with cameras with autofocus, the depth of focus starts off really small, and then if there's no motion, it can focus better and get much more in focus. So the same thing applies, if you're taking a picture of a big room, you want the far wall and the near walls also all in focus. And just to kind of drill in the point, this was taken with a very cheap camera I bought for $200 or $220. And most people think I've got some, like, looking at this would think I have like $1,000 camera. But what made the difference was using a tripod. So there's no motion at all. Auto focus can work the way it's supposed to and get the best picture.
That's an amazing photo, Chris. Good job.
Thank you. And yeah, this was actually, they were outside my window, dining room window. And then for the HDR, which I said, that's just a feature you can turn on. A lot of cameras, you do have to turn it on, especially cell phones. You have to turn it on every time you use it. It won't stay turned on because it's actually like a photo mode, like as if you were switching to say video, or like night mode for taking pictures at night or at sunset. But the top photo here was just taken with regular settings on my cell phone. The bottom one is with HDR turned on. These were taken a minute apart, so exact same lighting. But you can see it balances out, how bright everything is. So nothing's too bright or too dark. You can see a lot more detail. And this works by taking multiple photos and then blending them together. So you have to hold the camera very steady, or ideally use a tripod. Otherwise, can get a little bit of a ghost image. So it's a good idea to check your pictures if you're using HDR to make sure you don't get that. As an example, you might see like ghost images of the leaves on the plants. Or there's one actually, when I first tried doing sample photos, I had one. There was the back of a chair right in the bottom of the picture, and there was two of them because I moved just slightly, and the two pictures when merged didn't line up right. And then a quick bonus addition to this at the last minute. If you use Microsoft Edge, they just added a feature which they call HD, but it's basically like I'm not sure if it's AI, but essentially like AI auto enhance on photos, which it's great if you're just looking at pictures on the internet. It's going to make things look better. But when you're the person taking the pictures, it may fix mistakes, and then you don't realize the pictures aren't bright enough, or are a little out of focus. So I would recommend, if you do use Edge instead of Chrome, you just click that HD icon and then click the switch to turn it off. That way you're seeing the pictures how everyone else will see the pictures, and you will see if it's too dark. Instead of just blindly going, oh, that looks great, because it was, the computer fixed it for you automatically, but it's only when you're looking at it. And then when someone else looks at it, oh, it's dark, looks kind of dingy. If you use, at this point at least, Google Chrome does not have this feature. So if you use Chrome, don't worry about it. Or if you use Firefox or any other browser. So just in summary, photos are your first impression when people are looking at your listing. So make sure, you do the best job, for your clients and for yourself. And hopefully get more listings, more offers. And then, make more money. Okay, and then I will also be posting the PowerPoint onto our website. Probably I should be putting it under the marketing materials. I think is where the easiest to remember to find.
I do have a question if you have a moment.
Yes.
It's about virtual staging. And
Okay.
do you have any tips on that area? So I'm understanding that typically you take the photo of the room and then you send those photos over to the company and they take your photo and, overlay with furniture. Is that essentially the concept?
Right.
Okay, so we are responsible for taking the photos. So these tips are super important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple photographers that are offering that now. They're probably contracting it out. But even if you do use a professional photographer, you can then take those pictures and send them to a place that does virtual staging. When you log into NW Champions under the announcements, there's one for virtual staging, which is the guy we use for like Pat's listings.
Okay.
And he did just like a month or two ago bump up his pricing a bunch, but it's still pretty competitive. If I remember correctly, it's now, because it used to be $30 for 6 photos.
Wow.
Whereas most places charge $30 for 1 photo.
Right.
He's now charging $50 for 6 photos.
Oh, that's still a
But
really
it's
good
still,
deal.
like I said, it's still a really good deal compared to pretty much anywhere I've seen. And I assume other places have probably raised their prices too.
Oh yeah. Okay, thank you. That's a good reminder and a good tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
A reminder, one of my friends' house did virtual staging, and you have to make sure that the room's empty, right, Chris?
Yeah, ideally it should be empty. It depends on how much you're having done, because you can have them do just things like put a picture on the TV screen, put a fire in the fireplace. Sometimes it's just little things like that. In which case, if there's furniture there, that's fine. But yeah, usually, it's an empty space and you just want, a sofa or a dining room table or something in there. And, they have special it's essentially 3D clip art that they can put in with Photoshop.
Okay. Thank you. And are you noticing that the rental market is starting to use that virtual staging as well?
I haven't for rentals, just, your income per rental is pretty small. So people usually aren't spending much on them.
Yeah.
It actually, there's actually most of when I was looking for example photos, because I didn't want to use any of our agents' photos, make anyone, stand out. So I just went on the MLS. Most of the portrait photos I found were rentals, because they
Really?
just went out and took pictures with their cell phone really quick. And when you're holding your cell phone, you automatically hold it like this. That's just normal.
Great.
But for photos, you want to hold it like that and it'll take
Yeah.
pictures like you can roll it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Then, did you have any other questions, Debbie? Or
No.
comments?
No comments.
Okay,
Thank you, Chris. That was
Thank you, Chris.
always wonderful and helpful. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Think.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye, Anne Marie.
Bye.